My Leo CEO laughed at me on stage, but his ego couldn't survive what came next. Amelia Vance knew the rhythm of Seattle like the back of her hand. The perpetual mist clinging to the Space Needle, the sharp tang of espresso from her usual Pike Place market stand, the predictable thrum of morning traffic on a Minus 5 as she drove her sensible Honda Civic to Innovatech Solutions. It was 2019, and the tech world throbbed with a frenetic energy she both thrived on and found exhausting. At 32, Amelia was a senior software architect, a title that barely encapsulated the 3 years she'd poured into Project Chimera, an AI-driven data optimization platform. It was her baby, born from late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and the quiet hum of her powerful workstation. Her apartment in Capitol Hill, overlooking the city lights, was often just a place to sleep between stretches of intense coding. She was an introvert by nature, finding solace in the logic of algorithms and the elegant precision of code, a stark contrast to the performative corporate culture that increasingly defined Innovatech. Her boss, Marcus Thorne, the charismatic 45-year-old CEO, was the embodiment of that culture. A self-proclaimed visionary, Marcus possessed the kind of effortless charm that made venture capitalists open their wallets and employees nod in rapt attention during his quarterly addresses. He was a Leo through and through, a natural leader, fiercely proud, a showman who basked in the spotlight. Amelia, with her quiet diligence, often felt invisible next to his dazzling aura. While she meticulously crafted the complex neural networks and refined the core algorithms of Chimera, Marcus was out schmoozing, pitching, and taking credit for the synergies and disruptive innovations that were, in reality, Amelia's sleepless nights condensed into lines of code. She didn't mind, not really. The work was its own reward, and seeing Chimera grow from a nascent idea into a groundbreaking reality was enough. Or so she told herself. The Innovatech Visions Summit was the company's biggest event of the year, held at the sprawling Seattle Convention Center. Thousands of investors, industry analysts, and tech enthusiasts gathered, buzzing with anticipation. This year, Project Chimera was the headliner. Amelia felt a nervous flutter in her stomach, a mix of pride and trepidation. She'd spent the last few weeks preparing the technical demos, ensuring every single line of code was optimized, every potential glitch ironed out. Marcus, naturally, would be the one presenting. He'd rehearsed his keynote speech tirelessly, his booming voice echoing through the office corridors as he practiced his stage presence. Backstage, the air vibrated with adrenaline. Amelia watched from a monitor as Marcus strode onto the colossal stage, bathed in the glow of the massive LED screens. He looked every inch the tech titan, impeccably tailored, his smile radiating confidence. He spoke passionately about Innovatech's journey, about the future of AI, building the suspense before dropping the name Project Chimera. The crowd murmured excitedly. Then he announced, "And now I want to bring out one of the incredible minds who helped bring this vision to life. Please welcome Amelia Vance." Amelia's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. Her moment, however brief, to stand beside the project she'd birthed. She walked onto the stage, the blinding spotlights making it impossible to see the faces in the vast audience. She could only make out Marcus, his smile fixed as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "Amelia here," he boomed, his voice echoing through the massive hall, "is one of our diligent architects. She's been integral in the granular, technical implementation of some of Chimera's foundational elements. A real stickler for details, aren't you, Amelia?" He gave her an overly theatrical wink. Amelia offered a small, polite smile, sensing the subtle shift in his tone. "I believe in thoroughness, Marcus." "Thoroughness? Yes, absolutely." Marcus chuckled, then turned back to the audience, his hand still resting on her shoulder, like a proprietor proudly displaying a prized, albeit slightly eccentric, possession. Amelia's meticulous nature is, of course, a valuable asset in the trenches. But sometimes, he paused, leaning conspiratorially towards the microphone, sometimes you need a visionary to cut through the noise, to see the forest for the trees, to make the bold pivot. He looked at Amelia, his eyes glinting with an unmistakable condescension. Amelia, for all her dedication, occasionally struggled with the broader strategic implications. She'd get bogged down in the minutiae. "Right, Amelia." Amelia felt a cold dread creep up her spine. Her smile faltered. "The minutiae, Marcus, are often where the critical vulnerabilities lie." Marcus laughed then, a rich, booming sound that filled the convention center. It wasn't a kind laugh. It was a dismissive, patronizing sound, amplified for thousands. "Oh, Amelia, always the pragmatist. But that's why I step in. That's why I have to guide the ship." He turned back to the audience, his arm now sweeping dramatically towards the massive screen where a new, dazzling graphic appeared. "You see, for months, Chimera was merely a robust data processing tool. Good, but not great. Not until I had my breakthrough, my moment of clarity, a visionary pivot that transformed it into something truly revolutionary. I call it Thorne's Gambit." The screen exploded with flashy animations. Thorne's Gambit emblazoned across the projected image of Chimera's interface. Marcus beamed, basking in the applause. Amelia felt as if the stage lights had suddenly intensified, burning holes in her skin. Thorne's Gambit was the very core algorithm she had developed years ago, a proprietary method for predictive data modeling that she had brought to Innovatech. It was the heart of Chimera's unique efficiency, the component she had warned Marcus about extensively regarding its sensitivity to unoptimized data inputs. He was not only taking credit for her most brilliant work, he was rebranding it, making it his own, and simultaneously mocking her in front of the entire industry. He squeezed her shoulder once more, a possessive gesture, before turning fully to the audience, launching into a detailed explanation of his innovation, while Amelia stood there, a prop in his grandiose spectacle. The applause washed over her, a deafening wave of public humiliation. She didn't wait for Marcus to dismiss her. The moment he started pointing at the screens, Amelia turned and walked off stage, her vision blurring. The backstage crew, accustomed to the controlled chaos of major events, barely noticed her swift exit. She navigated the maze of cables and equipment, a hot wave of shame and fury washing over her. She found a quiet, dimly lit office, tucked away behind a utility closet, and locked the door. Leaning against the cool wall, she slid to the floor, her legs suddenly weak. Tears streamed down her face, hot and furious, blurring the stark reality of what had just happened. Her entire being felt violated. For an hour, she sat there, the muffled roar of the crowd and Marcus's voice a distant, mocking hum. Every cell in her body screamed for her to quit, to pack her bags, leave Seattle, and never look back. The betrayal was absolute, personal, and devastating. She pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling as she typed out a message to her best friend, Sarah Chen, a sharp-witted corporate lawyer she'd known since college. "I just got publicly eviscerated and robbed. Need you, now." Sarah called back instantly. "Amelia, what happened? Where are you?" Amelia choked out the story, the words tumbling out in a raw, broken torrent. Sarah listened patiently, her calm voice a lifeline in Amelia's storm. "Okay, deep breaths. Do not resign. Do not send any emails. Do not speak to anyone at Innovatech about this for now. Meet me at the Walrus and the Carpenter in an hour. We need to talk, quietly and strategically." The cool, salty air of Ballard helped clear Amelia's head. Sitting across from Sarah in the bustling oyster bar, the initial shock began to crystallize into something harder, colder. Rage, not the impulsive, destructive kind, but a simmering, focused fury that sharpened her resolve. "Tell me everything, Amelia," Sarah said, pushing a glass of water towards her. "Every detail about this Thorne's Gambit. When did you develop it? When did you bring it to Innovatech? Do you have any prior art? Any documentation?" As Amelia recounted the years of work, a crucial detail emerged, one she hadn't consciously considered in the immediate aftermath of the humiliation. The core algorithm, the one he's calling Thorne's Gambit, it's based on something I developed years ago, even before I joined Innovatech. I patented it, a predictive analytics method. It was for my master's thesis, a proof of concept. When I pitched it to Innovatech, I explicitly stated that the base methodology was patented and they'd need to license it or acquire the rights. They said they did. It was part of my initial employment contract, a clause about intellectual property transfer. Sarah's eyes gleamed. You patented it? Amelia, why didn't you mention this earlier? It was so long ago, a small-scale academic patent. I assumed it was all above board, absorbed into the company's IP when I signed on. I focused on building on it. Intellectual property transfer doesn't mean he gets to claim it as his visionary pivot years later, especially if it was a pre-existing patent he specifically acquired rights to for the company. That's a massive legal and ethical breach, bordering on fraud given his public claims. And you have documentation? Amelia nodded. Every line of code, every research paper, every design document. I have encrypted copies on my personal server at home. I've always been paranoid about backups, and I remember explicitly flagging the stability issues of a certain implementation approach during the Chimera development, the one Marcus just announced he's pushing as Thorne's Gambit. I advised against it. It's unoptimized and prone to data integrity issues under load. I kept detailed logs of those discussions, too. Sarah leaned back, a slow smile spreading across her face. Amelia, this isn't just about humiliation. This is about theft, corporate deceit, and a CEO recklessly jeopardizing a major product by implementing a flawed version of your patented work, all for his ego. You have leverage. The anger in Amelia's chest solidified into cold, calculated determination. She wouldn't quit. She would stay, silently, meticulously, and watch Marcus Thorne dig his own grave. Her hidden advantage wasn't just the patent or the documentation. It was her deep, intimate knowledge of Chimera's architecture, including its vulnerabilities and her capacity for quiet, relentless work. Over the next few months, Amelia resumed her daily routine at Innovatech, outwardly unperturbed. She continued her duties, attending meetings, offering technical insights with her usual precision, even to Marcus, who treated her with a forced, almost patronizing cordiality. She was a ghost in the machine, observing, learning. She noted how Marcus, buoyed by the initial hype from the Vision Summit, became even more arrogant, pushing aggressive deadlines for Chimera's full rollout. He dismissed her nuanced warnings about potential performance bottlenecks caused by his chosen Gambit implementation. In her evenings and weekends, Amelia embarked on a covert mission. With Sarah's legal guidance, she began refining her original patented algorithm, developing a streamlined, incredibly stable version, completely independent of Innovatech's internal architecture. She started building a new, personal project, an open-source framework she tentatively called Aegiscore, a shield, a core. It was a cleaner, more efficient iteration of the very technology Marcus was now clumsily trying to exploit. She collaborated with Sarah to establish a legal entity, a small LLC registered under a generic name, ready to launch Aegiscore as a standalone solution, perhaps targeting a niche market initially. The plan was not to attack Innovatech directly, but to build a better, more honest alternative. Innovatech launched Project Chimera with Marcus Thorne's Gambit, front and center. Initially, it was a triumph. Stock prices soared. Tech news sites lauded Marcus as a visionary. Amelia watched the headlines with a detached calm, knowing the truth. The cracks began to appear within weeks. Early adopters reported sporadic data corruption, inexplicable processing slowdowns, and integrity issues that the Innovatech support team couldn't explain. Marcus, in his typical fashion, dismissed these as minor teething issues, blaming user error or unforeseen external factors. But Amelia knew. She had predicted this. The unoptimized, rushed implementation of Thorne's Gambit was the culprit. It was a house of cards, built on ego, not engineering. She began subtly compiling all the public complaints, cross-referencing them with her internal documentation of the warnings she had given. She started building an anonymous digital dossier. Her opportunity came not from an inside leak, but from a chance encounter. At a casual Seattle tech meetup in Fremont, Amelia found herself chatting with Bethany Reed, an investigative tech journalist for a prominent online publication known for its deep dives into corporate misconduct. Bethany was working on a piece about the growing pressure on tech companies to deliver on hyped promises. Amelia, carefully, without revealing her direct involvement or any proprietary Innovatech data, spoke hypothetically about the dangers of prioritizing marketing over core engineering, referencing vague examples of CEOs claiming credit for foundational tech they didn't understand. She mentioned how easily patents could be overlooked or mismanaged in the rush to market, and how this could lead to systemic failures. Bethany, intrigued by Amelia's quiet intensity and deep technical understanding, pressed for more. Amelia, still cautious, suggested, "Perhaps you should look into how some of these visionary pivots are actually rebrands of existing, patented tech, and what happens when the original inventor's warnings about implementation are ignored." She gave Bethany a single, untraceable tip. Look for patents related to predictive data analytics filed in the early 2010s by engineers who later joined major Seattle tech firms. Bethany Reed was a bulldog. Within weeks, her team uncovered Amelia's master's thesis patent. They found the legal paperwork showing Innovatech had indeed acquired rights to it years ago. They then started looking at the performance issues of Chimera, connecting the dots. The journalist's exposé, titled The Emperor's New Algorithm, How Innovatech's visionary CEO built his empire on another's work, dropped like a bombshell. It laid bare the timeline of Amelia's original patent, the specifics of her warnings regarding the Thorne's Gambit implementation, and the mounting evidence of Chimera's performance failures. It referenced Amelia only as a highly credible former associate involved in the early development, protecting her anonymity. The article went viral. Investors panicked. Innovatech's stock plummeted, wiping out billions in market cap. News outlets dissected Marcus Thorne's past, unearthing other instances where he had exaggerated his role or taken undue credit. The board of directors, already facing a barrage of lawsuits from disgruntled clients and furious shareholders, launched an immediate internal investigation. Marcus, cornered, tried to deflect, to blame his team, to discredit the journalist. But the evidence was overwhelming, meticulously detailed by Bethany Reed's team, who continued to publish follow-up stories. Simultaneously, Amelia quietly launched Aegiscore, not as a competitor to Chimera, but as a robust, open-source solution for specific data optimization problems, subtly demonstrating the elegant efficiency her original algorithm truly possessed. Tech forums buzzed about it, praising its stability and performance, drawing a stark contrast to Innovatech's troubled product. Within 3 months, the inevitable happened. Under immense pressure from the board and major shareholders, Marcus Thorne was forced to resign from Innovatech. His carefully constructed persona of the visionary CEO shattered. His departure was framed as a mutual decision for the company's future, but everyone knew the truth. His name, once synonymous with innovation, became a byword for corporate arrogance and intellectual theft. Amelia watched it all unfold from her Capitol Hill apartment, the city lights twinkling outside her window. She felt no exultation, no grand triumph, only a quiet sense of justice. She hadn't sought to destroy Innovatech, only to reclaim her truth and ensure Marcus Thorne's ego couldn't continue to overshadow genuine innovation. She had built something new, something real, from the ashes of her humiliation. Aegiscore began to gain traction, a small but growing testament to her quiet brilliance. Her revenge wasn't a sudden, explosive act, but a slow, methodical dismantling of a lie piece by painful piece, until the truth and a better algorithm finally prevailed. Her new legacy was built on integrity, not on stolen valor. The Space Needle still pierced the Seattle sky, a constant in a world that had, for Amelia Vance, irrevocably shifted. Total characters: 21,987.